I love you.
What is going on, everybody? This is Mike Hughes, and you are listening to the Shy Kid and everything Chicago sports-related content page. We are back. We are better than ever. It is St. Patrick's Day weekend post. We are now into Monday. It is currently 1:45 a.m. Monday morning. I'm curious to see where a lot of people are at right now as it pertains to the Chicago Bears, Caleb Williams, Justin Fields, the news that we heard today that, hey, listen, the Chicago Bears got 4 better offers for Justin Fields. But Ryan Poles said, nah, Fields doesn't want to go there, so we're not sending him there. We're going to send him to Pittsburgh because that's where his representative said that he wants to go. A 2025 6th-round pick that is a conditional 4th-round pick if he plays over 50% of the snaps in 2024. But let's break it down. Let's talk about it. Let's get into it because I have a conversation for you guys tonight that I'm excited about. I'm really curious to see where Bears fans are everywhere when we discuss this next topic. I want to hit you with some numbers. I'm not a numbers guy. I went to Chicago Public School, but sometimes I cook. Sometimes the basic math is in my favor. So I want to break down some numbers with you guys today and talk about, is Caleb Williams going to be here for the foreseeable future? Let's talk about Caleb Williams, the contract, not Caleb Williams, the athlete or the person. Caleb Williams, obviously, the biggest question right now is, hey, listen, is he going to be that guy? Does he have an ego? Is he mentally ready for Chicago media? Is he a good teammate? Is his Heisman level production in the Pac-12 going to translate to the NFL at an MVP caliber level? But here's my big question right now. When I really look at what the Chicago Bears have done in history's past, are the Chicago Bears going to be able to handle, and are they prepared to handle a player of Caleb's caliber? Let's break it down. Caleb Williams is the most thought out, well thought of prospect and quarterback prospect since Andrew Luck. There's no argument about it. Over 93 passing touchdowns, over 27 rushing. That's over 100 touchdowns in total in 3 seasons in the Pac-12. And then obviously over 10,000 passing yards and over 960 rushing yards. And a Heisman. You look at that. Let's say, for sake of argument, Caleb Williams becomes a top 5 quarterback in the league. Let's say things go perfectly in this scenario. Let's say he wins an MVP in his first 4 years, just like Patrick Mahomes. Let's say somehow, some way, Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, and boys end up in the Super Bowl. We win the division several times in 4 years. Caleb Williams will be one of the highest paid players in NFL history, without a question. He has Patrick Mahomes-esque level talent. That is the ceiling. At the floor, I would say, is a Jay Cutler. I think that's fair. But speaking of Jay, let's talk about the Bears. Right now, you look at the NFL. Let's break down for quarterback contracts, the highest quarterback contracts in the league. Patrick Mahomes leads the charge, $450 million. Next up is Joe Burrow at $275, followed by Justin Herbert at $262, Lamar Jackson, who's at $260, and Josh Allen at $258. And Lamar is one of the more interesting ones to me because he doesn't have an agent. So he was able to do that on his own. And I know Caleb also doesn't have any legitimate agent as well. He's ran on his own with his own business, with his father. So guys like that can still get paid. We saw Roquan do the same thing. But the point of that is when you look at Chicago Bears history, this is the interesting one. Jay Cutler is the highest paid Chicago Bears quarterback in Chicago Bears history at a 7-year, $126.7 million extension. The number one highest paid player in Chicago Bears history on a 6-year deal was Khalil Mack for $141 million. The Bears have never even eclipsed 150. I'm not saying they had to with what they've had, But is the McCaskey family willing to drop over $250 million to 450 potentially, depending on how Caleb Williams develops on Caleb Williams? I've never seen them do it. They've been cheap in years past. Obviously, they've always brought in defensive players. They've always brought in certain players that are going to sell tickets, but are they willing to give generational wealth, the highest paid quarterback contract in the league, which 4 years from now could be anywhere from $300 to $500 million? Are they willing to do that? Are they willing to do that? Look what I mean, let's look up Daniel Jones's contract. I mean, Daniel Jones's contract even now is like, what the fuck? You're going to have to pay Caleb. Daniel Jones's contract is a 4 year, 200, what is it? Let me see really quick. 4 year, $160 million deal. So that's already more than Jay Cutler made with the Chicago Bears in his contract extension. So if Caleb Williams turns into this MVP caliber player and resurrects the Bears and brings them back to the promised land of the Super Bowl, getting the Lombardi trophy or even getting close to it, winning the NFC North year in and year out, do you make him the highest paid quarterback in the league? And the bigger question is, because I think guys like me and you will sit here and say, yeah, without a doubt, who wouldn't? But is the McCaskey family prepared for that? They just spent how much money on Arlington Heights' horse track for no reason? You know what I mean? They're already investing $2 billion in a new stadium south of Soldier Field. And of course, already having Soldier Field. Are the Bears in a position to where if they get to that point, they're going to be able to play him? And yeah, he said Super Bowl. Sorry, Super Bowl. So sorry. So sorry if I pronounced it wrong. It's 2 a.m. Give me some credit. um, but yeah, it's interesting, man. It's interesting. Dell said, "Is it on 79th?" I would hope not. I would hope not. For the sake of suburbanites everywhere, they would be terrified. So, but I think at the end of the day, man, it's going to be really interesting to see what happens with Caleb Williams. The fact that we're having these conversations of a generational caliber player. I know a lot of people will say, hey, whoa, 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 whoa. You used to be a diehard Fields fan. Listen, I'm gonna chop it up like this. And if you got a problem with it, I don't know what to tell you. Argue with your mama, not with me. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, JF1 was QB1 for however long he was going to be that. And I was going to treat him as such. Now he's gone, and you just have to understand that. I supported Mitch. I supported Jay. I supported Josh McCown, for Christ's sakes. I supported all of them. The Red Rifle to BDN and Nick Foles and all these other guys. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, if that's your guy, that's your guy. And as a super fan of the Chicago Bears, a diehard, they're always going to be my guys until they're not. Josh McCown wasn't actually that bad for the Bears. Dude, I'll tell you what, fun story really quick. When I was a shorty, I think I was like 12 or 13 years old. It's like 2012, 2013. Josh McCown threw 5 touchdowns against the Green Bay Packers. And then around Christmas time, my dad asked me what I wanted for Christmas. He was like, a Brandon Marshall jersey, a Jay Cutler signed football. What do you want? I said, I want a signed Josh McCown picture. And I have it. I don't know where it is right now. I think it's in my room. I'll have to pull it up. I'll probably put it on the wall. That is the greatest Chicago Bears quarterback I've seen in my life, just because he diced up the Packers defense and won us that game. I believe that was in Lambeau. But yeah, so yeah, no Josh McCown shade on this side. I hope the coaching goes well too. I hope he ends up a head coach somewhere someday in the NFL. Jay was a baller. I will say Jay could sling that rock too. That's the big thing. It was really, I think the fall off of Jay Cutler was 6 offensive coordinators in 8 years. And then to be real, the man also just didn't care. The man also was kind of in his own world. Michael said Italian beef is overrated. Michael, what are we talking about? Outlandish takes at 2 a.m. But I'm here for it. But yeah, man, I'm excited. Somebody said, how do you feel about DeAndre Swift? Honestly, I'm curious now, I guess is the word. Curious is the right word, because at first I said, you know what? Justin Fields and DeAndre Swift make a lot of sense. You have the first down and red zone threat in DeAndre Swift and Justin Fields, who's obviously still going to be that number one read option in the running game. We were top 2 in running the football in 2024. Bringing in DeAndre Swift, you still have your second and third down, maybe even fourth down rushers who are going to be hard-nosed hitters, stick hitters, and guys like Khalil Herbert and Roshan Johnson. But without Justin Fields, what does that look like? Caleb Williams isn't a scrub. Caleb Williams can definitely run the ball. Over 960 yards rushing in college in 3 seasons and over 27 rushing touchdowns. But again, it's very different versus the Pac-12 to the NFL level when you're going up against Myles Garrett or TJ Watt or Michael Parsons. You know what I mean? So I'm curious. I don't know how it's going to look. I don't know how that's going to transpire. Um, I think if you're going Caleb, I probably would have preferred Saquon Barkley just because he's an every down back. But I will say this. If the argument was, my voice just cracked. If the argument was Keenan Allen and DeAndre Swift or Saquon Barkley on his own, I'm going DeAndre Swift and Keenan Allen 10 times out of 10 because you're getting Caleb Williams, 2 number 1 wide receivers, period. You know what I mean? And then you have a guy like Tyler Scott in the slot. That was a tongue twister right there to be able to say that. But yeah, I would definitely go Keenan and Swift over Barkley on his own. Gerald Everett is there as well. They revamped offensive line, so I'm excited. You think the Bears are getting Caleb or Jaden? I think here's the thing. There's 155 people in here. I imagine the majority of them are Bears fans. So here's where I'm at. If you're debating Caleb or Jaden, we're going to stop it right there. Because the Bears fans do this thing where we act too good. And I'm not saying whoever asked this question is saying that, but we act too good for Caleb Williams. Like this isn't the biggest thought out prospect since Andrew Luck. I understand, the mentality might be a thing to take into consideration, but dude, we're used to Nick Foles, Andy Dalton, David Fales, Rex Grossman, Kyle Orton, Josh McCown, like Jay Cutler, Mitch Trubisky. Like, if this is the guy and he's going to take us to the promised land and he's got all this hype, you got to take him. You know what I mean? I'm more, as of the 2024 season, of course, I'm more of a fan of Jaden Daniels. He had a Heisman caliber season with Malik Neighbors and company at LSU. They were absolutely incredible. But I think it's tough, especially when you look at Caleb and you see how talented he is. Jaden's going to be great, though, too, in my opinion. I appreciate that follow button. If you guys are new here, make sure you tap in for that follow button. We're going to be going live every single day, making videos every single day, talking about the Chicago Bears and everything NFL-related content. So, and everything Chicago sports, really. But, except the White Sox. But, sorry, Young. But, I think – I'm curious to see what potentially happens with the Bears coming into the draft. I think Caleb is the sure thing at 1. At least I would imagine so. As long as the Bears didn't end up with Drake May or JJ McCarthy, I think I would be okay. But the ninth pick is the more interesting one to me. The ninth pick is one of those ones where I'm sitting here today and I'm like, listen, there's a lot of different ways it can go. I was just playing Madden, simulating the Bears 2024 season. I added Keenan Allen. And for those asking, I gave Keenan number 13 and I gave Caleb 1. But after looking at it, I had to change him to number 11 because I couldn't look at it. I was like, I don't care if you're the number 1 pick. I can't. It's JF1's number. So yeah, I think, as long as you're rocking out like that, the differences I saw were in the mock draft, Dallas Turner goes top 5. So I took Malik Neighbors at 9, but in reality, I think wide receivers are going to go very quickly. So I'm excited to see, who's going to be there at 9. Jaden Verse, a guy like Dallas Turner. I think pairing them up with somebody like Montez Sweat is key. You know what I mean? A young guy, kind of like when we got Roquan. You had Khalil Mack, Akeem Hicks, you had Danny Trevathan and all these veterans, but you needed that young guy who's going to take over. Rome Odunze, or Dunze, however you pronounce it. Rome's great. Rome is solid. I would prefer Malik. I think Malik is the closest thing to Marvin Harrison Jr. Marvin's obviously in a class of his own, but I think Malik's right there at 2. And I think he can be solid as well. You never really know. It depends on situations where guys go. If Malik Neighbors goes to the Chargers and he has Justin Herbert versus Marvin Harrison Jr. with Kyler Murray, it's a very different situation. So it's going to be interesting. Turner from Alabama. Yes, sir. Will we draft a wide receiver at 9? I don't think so. I think you can get one later in the draft. Not too much later, but there's a lot of great wide receivers in this draft class. You can either trade up again or you can just wait until your next pick. But for me right now, I look at, let's talk about picks 4 through 8. 4 through 8. The first three picks, Chicago, Washington, Patriots, likely going to be quarterbacks. Drake May, Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams, in the order, by the way. But 4 through 8 is interesting because you have, I'm trying to remember the order right now. I believe it's the Arizona Cardinals at 4, the Los Angeles Chargers at 5, the New York Giants at 6, the Tennessee Titans at 7, and the Atlanta Falcons at 8. At least 2 to 3 of those guys are going wide receiver. At least. I could see the Chargers going Joe Alt, definitely, because Rashawn Slater's really their only good offensive lineman. But for the Bears to be at 9, and for so many teams like the Giants or the Cardinals or even the Titans or the Falcons to add another receiver, because let's be real. Outside of Drake London, Darnell Mooney and them aren't great for Kirk Cousins. You know what I mean? Now, Bijan Robinson is solid. Kyle Pitts is solid, and not even solid. They're great if they're used correctly. But I'm talking wide receiver wise, outside of Drake London, not much to go off of. But yeah, I think you would go Jared Verse or Dallas Turner if they're available. I think that's what you have to complete the puzzle for this defense, because this was a defense that led the league in interceptions. They were top 2 run stopping defense, but sacks wise, they started the year off poor with Yannick Ngakoue and DeMarcus Walker. After getting Montez Sweat, it got better. But I think if you pair up somebody like Dallas Turner or Jared Verse, you get 10 times better. But I will say this, I don't trade down 9. I felt more comfortable trading 1 than I did 9. And I think it's because you need that final piece of the puzzle in a defensive player. And if you're going to get one of the best, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Joe said he just made a woman in MLB The Show. I heard. I don't know if I don't know the validity to that, but I haven't gotten the game yet. I'm buying it tomorrow morning. But I've heard that it actually is something you can do. I think that's a really cool feature. I think so. Do you want Caleb Williams? One, I don't think I have a choice. And 2, most definitely. You know what I mean? Most definitely. I think here's the thing. Jay Cutler was that dude. Arguably one of the most talented Bears quarterbacks of all time. It was just the mentality and the inconsistencies of offensive coordinators that kind of did him in. But I think I want to judge Caleb based off of what I see myself, the person that he becomes at the NFL level. You know what I mean? Like I don't know Caleb Williams personally, and all the media and all the drama. I've never heard Caleb Williams vocally say any of these things about wanting ownership or anything else. So it's all just smoke and mirrors to me. I'm excited about it nonetheless. I will say this, and we talked about it earlier when the show started. Is the Chicago Bears going to make Caleb Williams one of the highest paid players in the league? If he wins an MVP, if we win the division, if we win playoff games, go to the NFC Championship, maybe even win a Super Bowl. Let's say he has a Patrick Mahomes-esque start to his career. You know what I mean? Just like Patrick Mahomes, after year 1, or maybe even in year 1, we go to the playoffs, then you go to the Super Bowl. Let's say, dog, before you laugh, let's say it happens. You know what I mean? Like, are the Bears willing to pay him 250 to 400 plus $million? You know what I mean? Like Patrick Mahomes makes 450. Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow, and all of them are anywhere from 230 to 262. So if Caleb ends up being this generational talent, is the McCaskey family willing to pay him? I think that's one of my big questions, because we've never seen him do it. The highest paid Bears player ever on a 6-year deal is $141 million in Khalil Mack. Number 2 is Jay Cutler. I believe we said earlier that was at what? 126 over 7, $126.7 million over 7 years. Like they've never even eclipsed $150 million. So I'm curious if Caleb becomes this Patrick Mahomes level talent, Aaron Rodgers level talent, are they going to be able to keep him? Are they willing to pay him? I think that's the real question. And I hear you. Mahomes also restructured his contract, but at the end of the day, Patrick Mahomes will get paid $450 million. You know what I mean? It'll just take a little bit more time. But are the McCaskey family willing to spend $450 million when they've never even eclipsed 150? So, and that's on a single player. So I'm curious. I'm curious to see how that works. I'm curious to see how a guy like Caleb, he's all about him. And, I think rightfully so. He's at this point, he's in the Pac-12. He's at USC. To be completely honest, outside of Caleb Williams and Jordan Addison, I couldn't name 2 players on the USC football team in college football, and nonetheless, even the Pac-12. So winning a Heisman, understanding he's building his stock, maybe he's not a prima donna, maybe he's not egotistical, maybe he's just trying to get his bag, and that's his personality. The F Utah finger painted nails that he had was his shtick, and it was really cool. So I'm curious. I'm curious to see what happens. Maybe we get a Green Bay version of that. I think that would be kind of crazy. I wouldn't knock it. Honestly, I think it's bold. I think the players would be upset, but I think the coaching staff might be upset. Like, yo, bro, don't get banged up because of this. You see Cam Newton and Caleb Williams. I mean, that wouldn't be horrible either. You know what I mean? How do you feel about Justin Fields leaving? It's bittersweet. It's bittersweet because you understand that the Bears potentially could be going into a new era of football that even if you've been a fan for over 50 years, you've never seen. Jim McMahon won a Super Bowl in 1985, but he was nowhere near as talented as guys like Jay Cutler or Justin Fields or even Caleb Williams. So if Caleb Williams ends up being this Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers level talent, no Bears fan has ever seen that. You can make an argument, sure. Sid Luckman, cool. But like if he becomes who everybody thinks he can be, this is something no Bears fan has ever been ready for. This is like Michael Jordan coming to the Chicago Bulls, Derrick Rose coming to the Chicago Bulls. You know what I mean? Like, it's a new era in Chicago, just like Joe said. And I'm really curious to see what happens. He said, better take care of Keenan Allen. I hope Williams flops, though. What? Come on. Yeah, man, but that's the interesting conversation, like Caleb Williams is in this situation where I would say based off of the number one overall pick, this is the best situation any number one overall pick has ever come to. Not just first round pick, because I think obviously Patrick Mahomes gets gifted Andy Reid, Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, Sammy Watkins, Kareem Hunt, and Alex Smith to mentor him. But like as it pertains to number one overall picks, this is a team that won 7 games last year, could have won 10 if they didn't choke leads. You have a top 5 defense, leading the league in interceptions, top 2 run stopping defense. Maybe you bring in Dallas Turner to get more sacks and more pressure on the quarterback. You bring in a new revamped offensive line, DeAndre Swift, Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, Cole Kmet, Jared Everett. There's a Shane Waldron as your offensive coordinator. He's helped create guys like Jared Goff in LA, helped Russell Wilson in 2021, resurrected Geno Smith. He also worked with Tom Brady. So and he did some stuff in Washington. I don't know who the quarterback was for him in Washington. But it's interesting. It is very interesting. And I think it's going to be really exciting to see how Shane Waldron can help develop a guy like Caleb Williams. That's really what it comes down to. Do you think Keenan Allen will do more than a 1 year? I think that's the conversation right now, is trying to make sure we lock up Keenan Allen for the foreseeable future, especially now that you're taking Caleb 1. You need another wide receiver. You have 2 number 1 wide receivers in DJ Moore and Keenan Allen. If you bring in a Malik Neighbors or a Rome Odunze, that's perfectly fine. Or if somehow, some way you find a way to still get Marvin Harrison Jr., you won't. But if you did, that's awesome. But you need that veteran leadership. You need those guys who you can be there. Keenan Allen to me is equivalent to Mike Evans. They're the same guy. You know what I mean? 1,000 yards a season, damn near guaranteed every single year if healthy. He had career highs in touchdowns and receptions last year with over 100 and over 7 touchdowns. I'm excited to see what he could potentially do. He's got experience, in what it takes to be a contending football team. I think it's going to be really dope. I really do. But I appreciate you guys tuning in, man. I appreciate you guys for being here. If you're new here, please smack that follow button, because we're going to be doing Chicago Bears related content 24/7. We're going to be at the NFL draft, reporting live, talking about Caleb Williams, doing everything we need to do to be able to get the best content possible for all of you guys. So I appreciate everybody tuning in tonight. JF1, you will be greatly missed. CW, welcome to Chicago, baby. But with that being said, I'll check you guys out later. This is Mike Hughes, aka the